Hello, everyone. Today is Tuesday, the 17th. Hope you guys are doing well. Today, we're going to go over Chapter 13, Section 1. So, we're going to go ahead and knock this out in an ed puzzle form, like I had talked to you guys before. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this into an ed puzzle like I just mentioned. Go ahead and complete this. I'm going to assign a small article reflection assignment here in the next couple minutes. So look for that on Canvas. But this is going to be today's assignment. So we're going to talk about Chapter 13, Section 1. So this one is titled Growing Pains. So this is the time right around the days after statehood. So if we all remember, this is going to be an exam question that Oklahoma was created on which day? It was November 16th, 1907. Okay, so November 16th. So actually yesterday was Oklahoma's 113th birthday. Okay, so this is a picture of the old state capitol building in Guthrie, Oklahoma. Okay, so we're going to get into why Guthrie eventually loses the title as Oklahoma State Capital. Obviously, hopefully you guys know that Oklahoma City is the new capital of Oklahoma. Okay, so moving on. Politics. This is a picture of Charles Haskell. Okay, so Charles Haskell kind of won. It wasn't an actual election. It was just kind of like a popular poll type thing, realizing that he was the most popular candidate in Oklahoma. Okay, so once Oklahoma gets President Roosevelt to enact the Enabling Act in 1906, realizing that Oklahoma is going to be just one state, Charles Haskell is kind of chosen as Oklahoma's first governor. Eventually takes office in November 16th, 1907. Okay, so Charles Haskell was elected Oklahoma's first governor. There is a town southeast of Tulsa. If you keep going towards Bixby and Leonard out by Lake Bixoma, if you keep going straight on that highway, you'll run into a town called Haskell. Haskell's named after Charles Haskell. Okay, and side note, I know this doesn't mean anything, but their nickname is the Haymakers, the Haskell Haymakers. Don't understand it, but whatever. Okay, Oklahoma's first legislative meeting was held a month after statehood. So there's two different things going on in Oklahoma in legislation. Okay, so the progressive movement, which was popular in the 1900s, 1910s, was kind of taking hold. Okay, so this was a kind of like a labor support party. Okay, so it was kind of in favor of the worker. And also the Socialist Party in Oklahoma is starting to make its way into Oklahoma. Okay, also one of the first enactions of the government, it also established a Labor Day holiday, which we all like to celebrate Labor Day. It's kind of towards the end of summer. It's in the month of September, and it gives us a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. So a lot of people get that 3-day weekend off. So I'm glad Oklahoma's legislation figured that out and gave us that, because that's a good day for college football. So I always get to watch that one. But yeah, there's a picture of Charles Haskell. And again, Oklahoma's first legislative meeting was held a month after, so in December. And then the progressive movement. And we're going to talk about socialism here in a second. Okay, so higher education. So higher education is when we talk about universities, colleges, community college, anything above the high school level in education is considered higher education. Okay, so we're going to kind of take a look back at the history of higher education in Oklahoma. When we think about colleges in Oklahoma, there's two main ones. Okay, they're playing a football game this weekend. Go Pokes. We think about the University of Oklahoma in Norman, and also we think about Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. Okay, but I don't know if you guys know, we actually have two Division I colleges in the city of Tulsa, which for the size of the city of Tulsa is pretty impressive. So we have University of Tulsa, the Golden Hurricane, over there on Skelly and Harvard, over there off of 15th Street. Okay, actually that's 11th. I don't know why I said 15th. I apologize. Okay, and then we have Oral Roberts University. Okay, so Oral Roberts was a televangelist, and he started his own school pretty close to here, actually. It's kind of in the South Tulsa area. Okay, so those are two Division I schools we have in the city of Tulsa. Okay, so let's look at the first bullet point. Before statehood, each territory would select its own educational system. Okay, in today's time, the states still do have quite a bit of pull on their educational system, but there are these national standards and tests that need to be completed in all educational systems. So pretty much everybody in the United States is on the same lunch program. Okay, so all of that is decided by the Department of Education nationally. Okay, so but back in the day, back when states were territories and just starting out, the states had a say in what their school system looked like. Okay, so the University of Oklahoma, the second bullet point, started having classes in 1892. Okay, let's do some math. That's 15 years before statehood. Okay, so it was not called the University of Oklahoma at that point. Like a lot of colleges, it kind of goes through a few names and they eventually settle on one. Okay, so this was in Norman, and it was called the Oklahoma Territorial University, and I'll show you guys a picture of what that looked like here in a minute. But they started having classes 15 years before statehood. Okay, it started out as just kind of one building in a very, very small town called Norman. Okay, Norman was not the size of it as it is today, so it eventually grows in size, and then the University of Oklahoma grows in popularity and size as well. Okay. Oklahoma State University was having classes at around the same time, but it was not called Oklahoma State University. It was called Oklahoma A&M. Okay, so A&M means kind of like a farming and a mechanical, and it means agricultural and mechanical. That's A&M. So it was kind of like a farm school. If you wanted to go learn a trade, if you wanted to go learn how to work on machines, you would more than likely go to Oklahoma A&M. Okay, so their nickname was actually not the Cowboys back then. It was the Aggies. Okay, so if you go back into the 40s and even in the 50s, Oklahoma State history, the teams are actually called Aggies instead of Cowboys. Okay, both schools had their name changes and they're known by different things today. So we're going to go ahead and look at this picture. This is a picture from 1892 at the only campus building at Oklahoma Territorial University. Okay, so again, this is 15 years before statehood, and it's in 1892. But it's crazy to think. I know I've been to Norman a few times, and it's a huge campus. There's buildings everywhere. There's a whole city around the college that's thriving. There's a lot of people that live there. But this is literally out in the middle of nowhere with just one big building. That's insane. So, yeah, and you can look. So the actual start date of the University of Oklahoma was 1890. You can see its little seal logo right there that has a picture. I think that's Johnny Appleseed, kind of spreading the roots of knowledge there. Okay. And then, so this is a picture from pre-statehood also, the only school building in Stillwater. Okay, so Stillwater is kind of like Norman in a sense where the town is right around the college. It's a big, thriving community. There's a lot of people that live there. But if you look at this picture, it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, so Stillwater was kind of an outpost in a sense, meaning that there was not a lot around it. Okay, so eventually Oklahoma A&M starts growing and eventually becomes Oklahoma State University. So I just wanted to show you guys a picture of Oklahoma A&M's logo. Okay, so it's still kind of like a cowboy theme, but not really, because they use the Bronco. Right here, Oklahoma State does not use that. They use a guy by the name of Pistol Pete, who is an old-fashioned kind of like Western sheriff guy. So that's a picture of OSU's old logo. And I don't know if you guys know this. I know a lot of people like to make fun of OSU because they actually didn't win the national championship. They were voted national champions, but they actually did win a national championship in football in 1945 as the Oklahoma A&M Aggies. Okay, they went undefeated that season, and in the popular vote defeated the military academy, so West Point or Army. Well, Army had an excuse because a lot of their players were fighting in the Second World War at this time. So, but OSU actually won a national championship in football as the Aggies. Okay, so really famous basketball coach by the name of Henry Iba. He's pretty synonymous with basketball history. If you go to the gymnasium at OSU and see a basketball game, that's held in Gallagher Iba Arena. So that's a picture of Mr. Iba and the rest of his Oklahoma A&M Aggies. Okay, so that's a pretty neat picture there. You can see it says Aggies across their chest. And also Oklahoma State nowadays for their homecoming games tries to have like a throwback uniform or something like that, kind of commemorating the past teams. And so you can see that they actually put the Oklahoma A&M Aggie logo of the guy riding a horse on their helmet, and then on their plate right here at the front part of their helmet, they have the Aggies and the O in the middle of it. So that's kind of a little history of both of our state schools that are predominantly known. Okay, so let's get to political parties real fast. Political parties, they still have a pretty big say in what Oklahoma does today. Okay, so if we think of Oklahoma in today's political climate, Oklahoma is predominantly a Republican state. Okay, so I remember when President Obama was seeking re-election in 2012, President Obama did not win a single county, okay, in Oklahoma. Okay, so he was the Democratic nominee. Okay, the same in the 2016 election. Okay, Hillary Clinton did not win a single county in Oklahoma. It was President Trump. Okay, so when you think of today's political climate, Oklahoma is heavily Republican. Now, back in the day around statehood, this was not the case. Okay, it was quite a split between Republican and Democrat, and eventually the socialist. Okay, that we're going to talk about on this slide. Okay, so the territorial government was primarily Republican. Okay, so we had talked about this when the state was wanting to split, that Oklahoma on the east side, being the state of Sequoia, was going to be predominantly Democrat. Okay, and the western part of the state, with a lot of the immigrants and different things like that, were predominantly Republican. Okay, so this was going to cause a problem in voting for president. So that's why President Roosevelt does the Enabling Act in 1906 and eventually kind of draws that to a close. Okay, and so Oklahoma becomes a predominantly Republican state in 1906. Okay, the Socialist Party formed in 1901 and eventually came to Oklahoma once it became a state. Okay, so the farmer-led movement, so this was kind of led by the farmers that were looking to try to get their fair piece of land. Okay, so the farmer-led movement of socialism wanted the land to be publicly owned cooperatives, meaning that the people own the land, not just one person owned this big lot of land. Okay, so they wanted to break it up into pieces so it could be fair and farmers could have their fair cut of the land. Okay, so a lot of people, especially around 1910, 1911, are starting to join the Socialist Party in Oklahoma. Okay, so they're seeing that this is a good opportunity for them to get a fair shake and get the fair amount of land that they think that they deserve. Okay, so Oklahomans voted in the general election for the first time in the 1908 election. Okay, so there wasn't a presidential election in 1907, but eventually the next year there was. Okay, it was between Howard Taft, who was a Republican, and it was between this guy, William Jennings Bryan. Okay, William Jennings Bryan was a former Secretary of State. Okay, he was known as the Commoner. That was his nickname. Okay, a lot of people saw him as kind of like a common man, and so a lot of people did vote for him because of that aspect. He was from Nebraska. So, but for Oklahoma's first vote for the presidential election in 1908, they actually leaned Democrat. Okay, William Jennings Bryan loses a pretty close election to Howard Taft, but it's pretty neat to realize that Oklahoma kind of has swayed back and forth in its political opinions, kind of like a lot of different other states. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about for today is moving the capital. Okay, so we've talked about in our class the Enabling Act in 1906, created the capital in Guthrie. Okay, as we know, the capital today is in Oklahoma City, so we're going to look at kind of what got us there. Okay, so like I said, the Enabling Act enacted by President Teddy Roosevelt in 1906 designated, meaning it kind of named Guthrie the capital of Oklahoma. Okay, a lot of people were not happy about that, and we're going to get into that reason here in a second. Governor Haskell, not wanting the capital to be in a Republican city. Okay, so Governor Haskell was a Democrat. He did not want his capital in a Republican city. Okay, he wanted it to be in a Democratic city where more people would be on his side. Okay, so he decides to have a vote for a new capital in 1910. Okay, there were three options: Guthrie, which was a Republican city; Shawnee, who was a Republican city; or Oklahoma City, who was a Democratic city. And so Oklahoma City eventually wins that vote, but it's kind of contested. Not a lot of people agree with the practices that Governor Haskell has been using. So a lot of people are not in favor of moving the capital. So if this would have not happened, Guthrie would have been our capital. So that would have been a whole different thing. But in secrecy, Governor Haskell has this private secretary, a guy by the name of W.B. Anthony, take possession of the state seal. So the state seal in this time is kind of like a figurehead type thing, where if the state seal is there, it's supposedly the capital. So he goes and gets the state seal in Guthrie in secret and brings it to Oklahoma City, kind of making that ceremonial change of the capital is actually moving to Oklahoma City. So Guthrie eventually sues Oklahoma City for doing that, and they eventually lose. And today we know Oklahoma City as Oklahoma's capital. Okay, so here's a picture of what Oklahoma City looked like back in the early 1900s. Okay, and I'm guessing a lot of you have been to Oklahoma City. It's a thriving metropolis. There's a lot of people. It's the biggest city in Oklahoma. There's a picture of Chesapeake Energy Arena, which is downtown. That's where my Oklahoma City Thunder play. There's a big convention center. There's skyscrapers, the Devon Towers down here. So Oklahoma City is a very, very large city. And I don't know if you guys have been to the Capitol. If you've never been, it's pretty neat to go. I don't know if they're going to let you in with COVID going on, but normally you can go in and tour and see all that stuff. Okay, so just a reminder, go ahead and complete this ed puzzle by tonight by 11:59. We'll have some more ed puzzles. I'm going to post one for tomorrow, and then Thursday or Friday, I haven't decided, but Thursday or Friday, you will have an assignment if you don't have an ed puzzle. So again, if you need to get in contact with me, I'm going to go ahead and post a Google Doc to each one of your classes. If you have questions, go ahead and write on that Google Doc for me, or you can email me at jacob.nelson@jinxps.org, or you can give me a call on my office phone, which is listed on Canvas. Again, I hope you guys are well. Hope you're staying safe, and I hope I get to see you guys soon. Have a good day.